Hello students, welcome to the new session. In previous class we discussed about the preparations of ozone. Now we are going to discussing about the chemical properties of ozone. Chemical properties. In the previous classes we discussed about the preparation and physical properties of ozone. Now we are looking at the chemical properties of ozone. Ozone behaves both as oxidizing agent and as reducing agent also. Ozone behave both as oxidizing agent and as reducing agent. Now we are going to discussing about the oxidizing properties. Oxidizing properties. Ozone is an unstable substance, hence easily dissociate to liberate the nascent oxygen. Ozone is an unstable substance, hence easily dissociate to liberate nascent oxygen. This nascent oxygen will going to attack another substance easily. Hence, ozone behaves as an oxidizing agent. So ozone liberates nascent oxygen on dissociation. This nascent oxygen, this is called the nascent oxygen, newly born oxygen. This nascent oxygen readily attacks the another substance. So the thing which adding this oxygen is called oxidizing agent. This ozone liberating into this oxygen is going to add other substance. So ozone is an oxidizing agent. Ozone behaves as an oxidizing agent. Examples for those oxidizing properties. First one. Black lead sulfide is oxidizing to lead sulfate. Ozone oxidizes black lead sulfide to lead sulfate. First one is it oxidizes black lead sulfide to white lead sulfate. It oxidizes ferrous sulfate to ferric sulfate. It oxidizes ferrous sulfate to ferric sulfate. It oxidizes potassium iodide solution into iodine. It oxidizes iodine to iodic acid. Now we are going to look in the complete equation of these things. Lead sulfide is oxidized to lead sulfate, ferrous sulfate is oxidized to ferric sulfate, potassium iodide is oxidized to iodine, iodine is oxidized to iodic acid. Now look at the complete equation for these things. Lead sulfide on reaction with ozone, you will get lead sulfate and oxygen. Ferrous sulfate is oxidized to ferric sulfate. Ferrous sulfate, acidified ferrous sulfate is oxidizer to ferric sulfate. Ferrous sulfate is oxidized to ferric sulfate. Next, potassium iodide solution is oxidized to iodine. Potassium iodide solution. So solution means it contains some water. So this one on oxidation with this one on reaction with ozone, you will get iodine. Next, iodine is oxidized to iodic acid. Iodine is oxidized to iodic acid. Look at all these oxidation reactions of this ozone. In all these oxidation reactions, oxygen is liberated. In all these oxidation reactions, oxygen is liberated. Now look at some more oxidation reactions of this ozone. Oxidation properties. Lead sulfide, black lead sulfide is oxidized to white lead sulfate. Ferrous sulfate, acidified ferrous sulfate. Acidified ferrous sulfate is oxidized to ferric sulfate. Potassium iodide solution is oxidized to iodine. Iodine is oxidized to iodic acid. This one is iodic acid. Iodic acid. Now look at some other reactions. It also oxidizes silver to silver oxide. It also oxidizes silver to silver oxide. It also oxidizes mercury to mercuric oxide. It also oxidizes potassium ferrocyanide to potassium ferricyanide. Potassium ferrocyanide to potassium ferricyanide. K4FeCN 6 times to potassium ferricyanide. K3FeCN 6 times. All these are the oxidation properties of ozone. Looking at the complete equation. When silver react with ozone, we will get silver oxide along with oxygen gas is liberated. When mercury react with ozone, you will get mercuric oxide HgO by the liberation of O2. Potassium ferrocyanide. When react with the ozone, we will get potassium ferricyanide. Look at all these things. Here, the oxidation state of silver is 0. Here, the oxidation state of silver is +1. Here, the oxidation state of silver is 0. Here, the oxidation state of silver is +2. Means oxidation number is increasing. Oxidation number is increasing. Increasing in oxidation number is known as oxidation. Increasing in oxidation number is known as oxidation. This oxidation process is taken place in presence of ozone. So ozone behaves as an oxidizing agent. So this oxidation process is taking place in presence of ozone. Hence ozone behaves as an oxidizing agent. So silver is oxidized to silver oxide, mercury is oxidized to mercuric oxide, potassium ferrocyanide is oxidized to potassium ferricyanide. Look at the oxidation state of iron here. So iron is X. So I have to find out the oxidation state of iron. Each potassium have oxidation state +1. So 4 potassiums are there, +4. Each cyanide oxidation state is -1. So -x is equal to 0. X is equal to +2. Now here, what is the oxidation state of iron? Here potassium oxidation state is +3. Cyanide is -6, 0. So x is equal to +3. So here the oxidation state increases from +2 to +3. Oxidation state is increased from +2 to +3. So increasing in oxidation state is known as oxidation. This oxidation process is carried out by ozone. So ozone is an oxidizing agent. So these are some of the oxidation properties of ozone. Now look at some other oxidation properties of ozone. Before going then look at here. Here also one of the product is oxygen. So in all this oxidation process, oxygen is liberating as a product. Oxygen is liberating as a product. Now look at another oxidation properties of ozone. Sulfur dioxide. When react with ozone, sulfur dioxide, when react with ozone, you will get the sulfur trioxide. When sulfur dioxide react with ozone, you will get the sulfur trioxide. Similarly, stannous chloride solution, acidified stannous chloride, on reaction with ozone, you will get the stannic chloride, SnCl4. So stannous chloride, acidified stannous chloride on reaction with ozone, you will get the stannic chloride, SnCl4. So all these are the oxidizing properties of ozone. Here the stannous oxidation state is +2. Here the stannic oxidation state is +4. So ozone behaving as an oxidizing agent. So what is the specialty of these two reactions? not liberating. In these two reactions, oxygen is not liberating. So remaining all the reaction, oxygen is liberated as a product. So that is the importance of the two reactions. So in this, when sulfur dioxide oxidation with ozone, stannous chloride oxidation with ozone does not liberate the oxygen gas. Okay, we will look at another oxidation property, and that one is nitric oxide. When this nitric oxide react with ozone, we will get nitrogen dioxide and oxygen gas is liberated. When nitric oxide react with ozone, you will get nitrogen dioxide and O2. Especially this reaction takes place at the upper atmospheres. At upper atmospheres, the exhaust gases of jet planes, the exhaust gases of jet plane contains nitric oxide. In the upper atmospheres, we have the ozone gas. This nitric oxide react with ozone gas and converted that one into oxygen, so that continuously ozone is converted into oxygen. Oxygen does not filter the UV radiation, only ozone filters the UV radiation, protect the earth. So to prevent this, some amendments are made, that is jet planes nowadays the jet planes are not traveling in the upper stratosphere. Sorry, jet planes are not traveling in the higher atmospheres. They are going below the ozone layer. Now look at the reducing properties of this ozone. Ozone behaves both as oxidizing agent and reducing agent. When it is behaving as a reducing agent, reduction properties of ozone. When ozone behaving as a reducing agent, this is the general reaction. O3 gains an electron, O3 gains a nascent oxygen from other substance. O3 gains a nascent oxygen from other substance. The other substance is going to lose the oxygen. The thing which loses the oxygen is undergoing reduction. The thing which loses the oxygen undergoing the reduction. So this ozone is undergoing oxidation. The other thing is undergoing reduction. The thing which doing this reduction process is known as reducing agent. So ozone doing the reduction process. So ozone behaving as a reducing agent. Some of the examples, now we are going to discuss some of the examples. Take the barium peroxide. Into the barium peroxide solution, when ozone gas is passed, we will get barium oxide and oxygen gas. So into hydrogen peroxide, when ozone is passed, you will get water and oxygen. So these are the reducing properties of oxygen. We will look at another one. Silver oxide. When silver oxide reacts with ozone, you will get the silver and ozone. Silver and oxygen. So this silver oxide, silver when react with ozone at initial stages you will get silver oxide Ag2. When this silver oxide again react with ozone you will get the silver. When silver react with ozone you will get silver oxide. When the silver oxide again react with the ozone, you will get the silver. So what is the difference between this silver and this silver? Here the silver have the luster. It shows its luster. It shines, this silver shines, but this silver is in black color. It loses its luster and it is converted into black color. Silver does not have any luster. So ozone behaving as an oxidizing agent and the same thing and at the same time it is also behaving as a reducing agent also. So these are the reduction properties of ozone. Next look at the another properties. Reaction with hydrocarbons, unsaturated hydrocarbons. Reaction with unsaturated hydrocarbons. Reaction with unsaturated hydrocarbons. O3 react with alkenes and alkynes. O3 react with alkenes and alkynes and forms ozonides and forms ozonides. O3 react with alkenes and alkynes and forms the ozonides. We will take a simple example. CH2 double bond, CH2 ethylene is taken. This ethylene on reaction with ozone O3, you will get ozonides. This ozonide on reductive hydrolysis. This ozonide on reductive hydrolysis, you will get formaldehyde CH2. This ozonides on reductive hydrolysis, you will get the formaldehyde. This is ozonide. Here we will look at another example. This is alkyne acetylene. When this acetylene react with ozone, acetylene ozonide is formed. This acetylene ozonide on reductive hydrolysis, glyaxol is formed. So this one on reductive hydrolysis we will get the glyaxol. Based on these products, the position of unsaturation in the hydrocarbon chain is identified. So O3 is used for the identification of unsaturation in the hydrocarbon chain. Wherever you get this ozonide structure, at that place either double bond or triple bond is present. So based on the products, they will find out where this unsaturation is present in hydrocarbon chain. So these are the chemical properties of ozone. Now look at the identification test for ozone. Look at identification test of ozone. The first one is tiling of mercury. The first one is tiling of mercury. So what is this tiling of mercury? So have you seen the mercury? Whether the mercury sticks to the walls of the glass? No. You've seen this mercury in thermometers also. In thermometer, a liquid is present in the capillary tube of the thermometer. Mercury liquid is present. That mercury liquid does not stick to the walls of the glass. And look at the upper portion of this mercury. You see in upper meniscus. In case of this mercury shows upper meniscus. So when a liquid is placed in a capillary tube, this liquid at the top portion of this liquid either show like this. Look at water. At the top portion of water you can see like this curvature. This is called lower meniscus. If you see the liquid like this is called upper meniscus. How you look at this mercury in the thermometer? You are seeing like this, not like this. Water shows lower meniscus, mercury shows upper meniscus. So we are looking the two properties of mercury. Number one is mercury does not stick to the walls of the glass. Number two is mercury shows upper meniscus. Mercury exhibit upper meniscus. When this mercury react with ozone, it loses its meniscus. When mercury react with ozone, it loses its meniscus and sticks to the walls of the glass. This process is known as tiling of mercury. So what is tiling of mercury? Mercury does not sticks to the walls of the glass and it has upper meniscus, but when this mercury reacts with ozone, it forms mercurous oxide. This mercurous oxide sticks to the walls of the glass and also exhibit upper meniscus. This mercury sticks to the walls of the glass and also sticks to the and also exhibit upper meniscus. It sticks to the walls of the glass and also exhibit the upper meniscus. This property is known as tiling of mercury. So during tiling of mercury converts into mercurous oxide. They will ask you what is the compound which sticks to this mercury compound which sticks to the walls of the glass. This is mercury suboxide. Or simply mercurous oxide. So once this mercury sticks to the walls of the glass, when it reacts with ozone, you can again make this reaction into reverse by placing small amount of water in this mercurous oxide and vigorously shaking this one. Again you will get the mercury and oxygen. This is the tiling of mercury. Next, another identification test. Another identification test. When silver reacts with ozone, it gives silver oxide. When it again reacts with ozone, then you will get black color silver. So this one have luster. This one does not have the luster. It is a black color. So on the surface of silver, when ozone gas is passed, first it is converted into silver oxide. Again it is converted to black silver. These are the identification tests for ozone. Next, another identification test is alcoholic tetramethyl base. Alcoholic tetramethyl base paper converted into violet color. Alcoholic tetramethyl base paper is converted into violet color. Next, another test is benzidine paper is converted into brown color. So benzidine paper, conversion of benzidine paper into brown color, and alcoholic tetramethyl paper converted into violet color indicates the presence of ozone. So these are the identification tests for ozone. Next, look at the uses of ozone. Uses of ozone. So ozone behaves as an oxidizing agent and reducing agent. Next, ozone protects us from UV radiation. Next, ozone can be used as a disinfectant to purify the water. So you know that whenever you buy these mineral water bottles, look at the labels. They will show you that on that label they will written like this: it is ozonized water. Ozonized water means, so into water ozone gas is passed, so that all bacteria is going to kill out. So that is the ozonized water. So ozone is used to kill the bacteria, microorganisms. Ozone is somewhat poisonous gas. Next, this ozone is used to increase the quality of oxygen, on underground railway systems. So we are at uses of ozone. Ozone is used to increase the quality of air, that means to increase the oxygen percentage in air, in underground tunnels, in underground cinema halls, and ozone is used as an insecticide, that means to kill the bacteria. Next, ozone also can be used as a bleaching agent. Ozone can also be used as a bleaching agent to bleach ivory metals, especially to bleach the ivory metals. So ivory metals are very sensitive to acids, all those bleaching agents. So these ivory metals are cleaned by using this ozone gas. Next, ozone compound cyanogen. Cyanogen is the mixture of C2N2 and O3. Cyanogen is the mixture of C2N2 and O3. Cyanogen is the mixture of C2N2 and O3. This mixture is used as a rocket fuel. This mixture is used as a rocket fuel. So these are the uses of ozone gas. Next, to look at the estimation of ozone. estimation of O3. So how ozone is going to estimate? When potassium iodide solution react with ozone, iodine is liberated. When potassium iodide solution react with ozone, iodine is liberated. This iodine, when titrated with this iodine solution, when titrated with hypo, this iodine solution when titrated with hypo, you will get sodium tetrathionate, and sodium iodide. Like this. So this is the iodometric titration. These are called iodometric titrations. So based on these iodometric titrations, ozone is identified. Ozone is estimated. How much ozone is present is estimated based on this iodometric titrations. So this is about ozone. Another thing is structure of ozone. Structure. Ozone have bent structure. Ozone have angular structure. Ozone have bent structure. So this is the structure of ozone. It has bent structure. It is a diamagnetic molecule. It is a diamagnetic molecule. Oxygen is paramagnetic. Ozone is diamagnetic. O2 is paramagnetic. O3 is diamagnetic. Another topic is sulfur. The next topic is sulfur. Next topic is sulfur. So what about this sulfur? First look at the allotropic forms of sulfur. While looking at the physical properties, we look at the allotropic forms of sulfur. So what is meant by allotropy? So allotropy is the property in which an element is available in different physical forms. Allotropy is the property in which an element is available in different physical forms. Sulfur is available in different physical forms. So some of the physical forms are alpha sulfur, beta sulfur, gamma sulfur, xi sulfur, also known as plastic sulfur, epsilon sulfur, also known as angel sulfur, this beta sulfur also known as monoclinic sulfur. Beta sulfur also known as monoclinic sulfur. It is also known as prismatic sulfur. Also known as prismatic sulfur. So So this angel sulfur. This angel sulfur is in S6 form. Remaining all sulfurs are in S8 forms. So atomicity of this alpha, beta, gamma sulfur are octaatomic. Atomicity of this alpha, beta, gamma sulfurs are octaatomic. This angel sulfur is hexaatomic. When this sulfur is available as an octaatomic form, this has the crown shape. So 8 sulfurs, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. This is Puckford ring structure. So sulfur have Puckford ring structure. And this one have chain form. This epsilon sulfur is a chain form. S6 hexaatomic sulfur is a chain form. This octaatomic one means Puckford ring structure, crown structure. Crown structure. These allotropic forms are interconvertible. All these allotropic forms are interconvertible. Alpha sulfur. Up to 96 degrees centigrade. An equilibrium is present between alpha sulfur and beta sulfur. Up to 96 degrees centigrade, at 96 degrees centigrade, an equilibrium is present between alpha sulfur and beta sulfur. Greater than 96 degrees centigrade, greater than 96 degrees centigrade, beta sulfur is present. You can observe the beta sulfur, that means alpha sulfur is converted to beta sulfur. At less than 96 degrees centigrade, more amount of alpha sulfur is observed. When sulfur is heated greater than 96 degrees centigrade and it is cool, you will get the beta sulfur. When sulfur is present below 96 degrees centigrade, you can see the alpha sulfur. At 96 degrees centigrade, you can see both alpha and beta sulfurs are in equilibrium. When this sulfur is heated and melted, when it is poured into cold water, then you get this plastic sulfur. When sulfur is heated and melted, and when it is suddenly poured into cold water, then you get the plastic sulfur. This plastic sulfur have the elastic property. Plastic sulfur have the elastic property. In plastic sulfur, this sulfur chain is present as a S6 chain or S4 chain or S2 chain. So some of the molecules are available as S6, some of the molecules are available as S4, and some of the molecules are available as S2. So it means different length having sulfur chains are formed when molten sulfur is suddenly cooled in cold water. When molten sulfur is suddenly cooled in cold water, then you get the plastic sulfur. In plastic sulfur, you get different length of sulfur chain. Bond angle is 107. Here the bond angle is 102 degrees. Next, solubility of the sulfur. Sulfur is insoluble in water. Sulfur is insoluble in water, but it is highly soluble in carbon disulfide. Insoluble in water, highly soluble in carbon disulfide, less soluble in, or simply we can say soluble in benzene, soluble in benzene. So these are the allotropic forms of sulfur and alpha, beta, gamma sulfur structures, and this angel sulfur structure, it is in chain form. Angel sulfur is in chain form. Alpha, beta, gamma sulfurs are in crown shape. Yes, here, looking here. So when alpha sulfur is heated above 96 degrees centigrade and it is cooled, then you get the beta sulfur. That means here one allotropic form is converting into another allotropic form. One allotropic form is converting into another allotropic form, and the temperature is known as transition temperature. Temperature is known as transition temperature. So what is transition temperature? So transition temperature is the temperature at which one allotropic form is converted into another allotropic form. One allotropic form is converted into another allotropic form. That temperature is known as the transition temperature. So this is enough for this day. Tomorrow, because if the next topic is sulfur oxides, so we will discuss that sulfur oxide means sulfur dioxide and sulfur trioxide on the next class. This is enough for this class. We will meet on next session. Thank you. Sounds alright.